Dalton, Riley, Wolves and wagers. Obviously, being 8-2 is absolutely clutch, but I want to talk a little bit about Klay Thompson. I was watching the Warriors broadcast, and they kept making him sound like the angel of all angels when he obviously started it with Jaden McDaniels tonight, and he started with Devin Booker. And I think it's gotten to a point where he knows he can't hang with these young guys, and he needs to do something else to try and alter the game. It didn't work. The Wolves now have picked up their second win at Chase Bank Center in 3 days. What a start to the season, Riley.
You tell us at the beginning of the season, hey, the Wolves are going to be 8-2. How ecstatic are we, right? Like, you just cannot understate how big that is. Probably could be 10-0 if we're being honest. Maybe 9-1. I mean, for sure should have won that Hawks game, but regardless, your record says what you are, right? That's an old quote or whatever. This was an ugly, ugly win. They were missing some key pieces, but at the end of the day, you'll take the win, right? Draymond being Draymond, right? Just his antics going crazy again. I wouldn't be surprised if he's suspended. I'd guess at least a game, right? I'm trying to think of similar instances where people have been suspended for like one game, right? I think when Jokic and Markieff got into it, they each got like a 1-game suspension, and then Markieff missed like half the season with that neck injury, whiplash or whatever. Regardless, very interesting start to the game. And like you said, Klay grabbed Jaden's jersey right here kind of and like extended his arm. And then Jaden was just kind of holding his ground. But chippy matchup. I'm loving how this is turning into a bit of a rivalry, right? Ant, I think it was in a GQ interview at the beginning of the season, he said, I want to see the Warriors in the playoffs because Draymond talks so much trash. Like, they're starting to form a little bit of a rivalry here, and I don't mind it at all. But we'll break down this game a bit. 104-101 victory was not pretty, like we've mentioned. But at the end of the day, it was a win. Cat came out to play. 5 of 12 from deep. Helped me for the props tonight. Absolutely helped me on that when I laddered his threes. But they don't win this game without him at all, right? Mike Conley came up big, and even outside of that three-pointer at the end of the game, he had 8 assists on the night, 4 for 6 from the floor, just played really well in general. But I'll let you start with Cat.
Yeah, so my biggest key coming into this matchup was, and especially after Draymond gets tossed early in this matchup, was Naz and Cat should dominate this matchup, especially with a guy like Trace Jackson Davis consistently being on one of those two lads. And Naz, was pretty efficient, had some questionable times, but obviously Cat was a star, was a main target on all my lines for all my props. But I also kind of want to talk about just kind of one point real quick, Ryan. It just sticks out to me, and it just really makes me appreciate Jaden McDaniels and his ability to guard, obviously, the best offensive players. And a lot of times that's like 6'9" guys playing the three. And for like the start of the game, didn't have to even waste a breath guarding CP3 in the corner. I mean, he literally could just sit there, save all of his energy for the offensive side, and look at the end of the game, right? Anthony Edwards making the right decision, kicking it out to Mike Conley, who I said was the perfect point guard for this team in one of the last videos. I mean, that's why I love Jaden McDaniels, is Anthony Edwards doesn't have to really focus the whole entire game on both ends, and he can focus on being not only the 30-point scorer that he and Cat can both be, but he can also be the playmaker. And he made the right decision tonight and ended with a big dub on the road for the Wolves in the in-season tournament. 2-0 in the in-season tournament, right?
Yeah, this could have been a much different conversation we're having now if Ant takes that pull-up instead, right? And I wouldn't have even really blamed him because it wasn't that many minutes ago he had hit that big three, just splashed it in. But Ant in years past, even last year, he probably does take that. He tries to play hero ball, which I don't mind to a certain extent. He goes ISO, tries to pull up. Instead, he realized the defense was all over him. He had Mike sitting wide open. He made the right play, knocked it down, trusted his teammates. That's going to pay dividends. So shout out to Ant for trusting it and making the right play, right? Like that's and we've talked about that a lot this year. That's the biggest growth that we've seen with him, is him making the right play and knowing when to shoot and when to maybe look to pass. But overall, really good win. Rudy did not impress me again, but I will give him some. I'll start with some love for Rudy first, right? Because we were texting back and forth, and I had made the comment, this looks like last year's Rudy Gobert. For most of the game, he did, right? Could not find the ball like at all. He was looking at his hands early in the game, kind of doing this, like grab it, grab it. And I'm screaming at the TV. I'm like, yeah, Rudy, grab it. Like it's right there. It's bumbling off your hands and whatnot. He was driving me nuts. But when it mattered, he had a block on Dario at the end on that 3-pointer that would have put them up that corner three with like less than a minute left.
Yeah, that was nice.
And then he blocked Wiggins, I think, semi late in the fourth or midway through the fourth. And then he had another block, I think, shortly after that. So 3 big blocks there in the fourth quarter that kind of helped alter the game and really like put that rim protection presence back, into consideration for the Warriors because they were kind of having their way earlier. So Rudy, I'll give him credit for the blocks there at the end, but man, he's got to start grabbing the ball. And when you're 2 for 8 and you never shoot a shot outside of 4 feet, that's a problem. And this isn't the first time it's happened this year. He had a game where he was 0 for 6 from the floor, I think, right? Earlier this season. So that just kind of drives me crazy.
Yeah, and Rudy didn't have his best game tonight, but he's also, on a lot of nights so far early in the season, been able to carry a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns. So for Cat to kind of return the favor and say, hey, Rudy, I got you tonight. Don't worry about it. But this is the Cat that realistically there's arguments when the Timberwolves had number 1 pick on if they would take Cat or who the other guy was.
Big Jahlil Okafor.
But this is why you took Karl-Anthony Towns, is for him to plain and simply take over a basketball game on the road. And he did that tonight when the Wolves needed him. Anthony Edwards, I know I gave him a little flowers here early, but he didn't even have his best performance tonight. Karl-Anthony Towns was the star of the show. He showed out in Golden State once again. I was hoping that Nas would join him tonight. A little bit more on that side of things, but Nas still had a good game. But Karl-Anthony Towns, got to give him all of the love. He was the reason we walked away with a win in kind of an ugly matchup tonight, right? With all the, early game chaos that went on with 3 pretty valuable players on both sides of the ball tonight in Golden State.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering what was going on with Nas because he was 4 for 5 from the floor. He had 10 points in 16 minutes. I thought 16 minutes was a bit light, especially when Rudy was struggling. Obviously, you're not going to put him in there for Cat when Cat was cooking like he was. But I was just surprised we didn't get a little more Nas minutes. I think I'd like him to be at that 22 to 26 minutes per game mark by season's end because there's some games, where he's going to have to play close to 30 minutes. And then there's other games like tonight where Finch is probably only going to play him 15, 16, 17 minutes. It's just the way it works out, I guess. So I don't know why we didn't see more of him because he was productive when he was out there, but he also did have a few turnovers, which I don't enjoy from, your third string center, especially when Ant and Cat combined for 10 turnovers. They each had 5 apiece. That's been a reoccurring theme this year that they need to clean up is the turnovers. Cat gets a lot of them from offensive fouls. Ant gets a lot of them off careless passes. He had one to, I can't remember who it was to. He tried to thread the needle, but he one hand shoveled it across the court. That's going to get picked off every single time, right? This is the NBA. The one that probably counts as the Ant turnover was when he put a little heat on it and went to Mike in the corner. Mike's probably got to handle that at the end of the day, but still.
I put it half and half.
You don't need to rocket that pass there either. Just make a sound chest pass. But besides, we're looking at his box score. Wasn't great. He was like a minus 16, I think, in 20-something minutes. 2 of 5 from the floor, 1 of 4 from deep. Did have a couple turnovers as well. So first bad game in a few games, but I'm not too worried about it because he was still playing hard defense out there. Still liked what I saw from him. And then the biggest thing for me, again, as far as the bad sections go, the offensive rebounding. People standing under the hoop. This is we talked about it not too long ago against when we did our preview against the Warriors or after dark after the Warriors. You can't sit there under the hoop looking up expecting a 3-pointer to fall into your lap. Those are long rebounds, and they got killed on the glass again. 13 of them things again, and it led to a ton of second chance points.
Yeah, outside of kind of the negatives for Rudy, just not even being able to catch the ball and not being able to make point blank shots. This is stuff that you got to be able to do in the NBA, and you've seen it way too much from Rudy. But obviously he's been pretty consistent this year, so can't complain. Wolves are 8-2. But when it comes down to it, the only negative that I had was, and the refs were pretty solid tonight, but there was one point in this game, it was about 6 minutes to go, that offensive foul on Ant when we were up only, I think, 1 or 2 at the time. Why does Finch have to be forced to take a challenge because they can't make the correct call in a clutch moment of that game? Now, great job by Finch. He called some great timeouts, and great job on obviously getting the challenge to go through. But that's a momentum change. If, say, Finch is like, you know what, there's just not enough there to overturn that. I can't challenge that because the call on the court was an offensive foul. We could be literally talking about the Wolves taking an L in this matchup based off of that call. But outside of that, no real other negatives for me, Rye.
Yeah, that is a bit ridiculous. I saw a tweet tonight. I can't remember who it was by. It was mentioned like these Warriors G Leaguers and their rookies, Podu, like they're getting a better whistle than Anthony Edwards. Now, maybe a little bit of that is because there was a stretch there where Ant looked like he was foul hunting and he wasn't going up strong, and he probably was fouled a few times, but you got to play through it to a certain extent as well. But man, you're right. If it's a bang bang play, you normally would give it to the star, not the rookie. So that was what kind of drove me crazy, especially when Dario was getting a lot of whistles tonight too. Now he was fouled quite a bit, but there was a few of them too. It's like, man, that could just be a play on. Cat had a couple and ones, and I thought there should have even been a few more. But overall, like you said, I think it evens out throughout the game. Like it wasn't too poorly officiated in my opinion, even though Warriors fans were chanting refs you suck right away when it was clear as day that Draymond should have been ejected, but maybe that was more so them. Because in my opinion, and I think I texted you this when that stuff first happened, it should have been double text on Jaden and Clay, Draymond ejected, and let's play ball, right? Like,
Yep.
I thought it was a bit excessive to eject 3 people. I thought there should have only been one ejection. It was the guy who was WWE Raw on the court. So, but besides that, that's really all I have on my half. I do have second half Shake for a positive because first half he really struggled. And I was like, man, he just isn't, he's back to playing a Jalen Noel role. But in that second half, he had a couple and ones, made some right plays, made the right passes. He looked really nice out there. And they probably don't win this game without him keeping the Wolves within striking distance when some of those stars were resting and they were still down.
Yeah, and that was one of my big keys. And even in the first half, I know you were kind of down on him, but I saw 2 nice assists where if Shake is actually passing the rock and he's able to get you some buckets, he's going to be a guy who I want to get 20 plus minutes a night. He's been a quality piece for a playoff organization for, I think, 6 years he was over in Philadelphia. He scored 33 in a game before, and I think he was a big reason that the Wolves actually walked away with this win. And Dario Saric, I'm just going to say a little bit about him. A lot of his little bunnies and a lot of those wide open threes, like congratulations, you can have those all day long, Dario. We're not too worried about you. But then kind of go into the last positive that I had was after Finch won the challenge, Ant misses the first free throw, which is just one of the most frustrating things. But then he pretty much says F you after CP3 makes like a little mid-range. Late in the shot clock, I think it was like 3 or 4 seconds left in the shot clock, that pull-up 3, are you freaking kidding
That was
me,
deep,
man?
dude.
Like that is the point where I was like, I texted Jared, I might have texted you, hey man, you might want to just jump on freaking Wolves Live right now, because I mean, that is an absolute bucket from a guy who, like I said, and I'll say it again, it wasn't his best night tonight, but he found ways to get it done, including the play of the night, the kick out to Big Mike for the game-winning 3.
Yeah, that's about, I think, all we have on this game. Probably one you just want to turn the page on. Maybe you watch a little bit of film on it if you're the Wolves and clean up some things. But you got to refocus in. Big game against Phoenix tomorrow. Tonight was the in-season tournament game, so obviously a big W. But as far as like season-long stuff goes, if you want to be taken seriously, go on the road and win in Phoenix on the back end of a back-to-back. Start the season 9-2 with a lot of quality wins. But we got some more episodes coming out tomorrow. We appreciate you guys as always for tuning into these episodes, and we'll catch y'all later.